Hi, I'm Bob Rehill, founder and CEO here at HRTech247. Excited today to have another coffee chat with Thomas Schilling from Tugela People. Let's go and have a chat and see what he's got to say about the world of HR, transformation and technology. Hi, Thomas. Great to catch up with you, Grant. How have you been keeping?
Bob, really good to catch up with you as well. Really well, thank you. Nice to be back in the office again, to be honest.
I know, I was going to say, it's great seeing a building and an actual window behind you as opposed to sort of the artificial backgrounds that we've had over the last 18 months. But listen, just before we go into a conversation, do you want to explain to the listeners and those listening in who you are and what you do?
Yeah, gladly. And thanks again for the invite. Really good to catch up with you again. I'm MD of Tugela People. We're an HR consultancy focusing on Sage People implementations for clients, typically multinationals between 2,500 and 5,000 employees.
Fantastic. And it's really interesting stat, actually. Do you want to explain to those listening in? Because I love the story about where the name Tugela comes from. Do you want to give a quick 30 seconds on that as well?
Yeah, gladly. Yeah, so Tugela is actually the name of a river and the world's now statistically proven highest waterfall in South Africa. And in local language, it's pronounced as Tugela, something like that. And it means wow, so place of splendor. And if I could show you some pictures, you could see where that comes from. But I can't at the moment.
Fantastic. I'm glad we call it Tugela People and not what you how you pronounce it. It's a lot easier for me as well. But listen, great to connect again. And obviously we've come through sort of 18, well, nearly 20 months of some difficult times, both for businesses, but also people like us who provide transformation services, and what you do is amazing as well. But what are you, now that we're coming back out of lockdown and, people are starting to get back to some sort of, and I'll use the word normality, except it's the, whether it's the new norm, normality, or a hybrid, whatever it is, we're back to trying to make sure that we maximize our opportunities that exist out. What are you hearing in the marketplace, and what are customers coming to you about at the moment?
So a variety of questions, queries, situations. Most of them are coming off spreadsheets and managing their HR processes, headcount, performance management, comp planning on spreadsheets. And these are multinational companies, and I'm not talking about an insignificant percentage. I'd say easily 60% of them. We've literally got a kickoff today, Bob, with a client, 150 employees, growing very fast, got huge venture capital investment in 3-4 different countries, struggling to understand their workforce, multicultural, multi-language, and they're coming off spreadsheets, and they've been doing it for 15 years on spreadsheets.
And do you think the recent situation with COVID and the ability to work from home and the ability to have to access information in different places has, quickened the need to move as well?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think the realization that we need to know as a business who are our employees, what motivates them, what are their challenges, what can we do to improve, definitely has meant that in terms of HR digital transformation, that's come to the fore, and the benefits of doing it have come to the fore as well. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because obviously we work in a very similar space to Tugela People in the project side of things, but actually, we're seeing the same sort of thing. So let's talk a bit about what your advice is to your clients then. What are you telling them to start thinking? They're coming to you and saying, Thomas, I've got a problem. I'm probably not the most effective thing. I've got all these disparate solutions. What's the first thing you suggest to them or do with them or suggest and advise on?
I think you've got to start with the end in mind, Bob. So effectively, what is it that you want to achieve? And ask the question, why? And then you work backwards. Now you've got these objectives. Let's say, for argument's sake, you want to understand, who your workforce is. You want to make it easier for them to, both from managers and employees' perspective, to book their holidays, to download their pay slips so that they can go and apply for a mortgage. They don't have to bother the HR administrators with those questions. So you want to try and automate as much as possible. Also visualize the data, make sure that it's real time, make sure that the data is in the right place.
Yeah.
But then start off with some of the smaller opportunities. Don't go with the big bang, because you can often find, and I've got an example of a 900 man company in 7 different countries, I think they were. And they wanted to go with a large ERP system, and that meant implementing core HR, performance management, learning management, time and attendance, the whole shebang. And I'd suggest find some smaller opportunities. Just go with core HR, get to grips with your organization. To be the first time that you see all your data in one place, gives you opportunity to cleanse your data. And then you suddenly realize the power of digital transformation. Now go and look for some of those other opportunities. And every business is different. Yes, every business might need a recruitment system. It might need a learning management system, but the priorities would be different. If you're a fast growing business, your next implementation will probably be recruitment, and then you tackle that one, and then see what you've learned through the process. Always do that deep dive afterwards. Now, these were my objectives. Have I achieved those? Where have I learned things that I can then improve my next implementation? Those are the types of things I go back to them with, Bob.
And it's really interesting, and you're right. And I think I see a lot of organizations that sort of straight away say, I want to implement this system, as opposed to, as you say, start with the end in mind, really think about this strategically, but also, as you say, take bite-sized chunks if possible. And a lot of that depends on the maturity of the organization to adopt change, right? And manage and drive change. And some organizations, fast-paced, are geared up for it and can move at pace and do everything in one go. And some organizations actually, who are probably coming from sort of Excel spreadsheets, actually recognize why you're still there. You're still there because you haven't been able to move at pace or adapt. So don't go from one extreme to the other, try and bite-sized chunks. And I think it's really good advice, Thomas, is keep that journey in mind, as opposed to trying to do everything over the next 6 months, etc. So, when you're working with clients, what are the sorts of things that, thinking with the end in mind, what sort of things would you be asking them questions about? I know you talked a little bit about that shortly, but give me the top 2 or 3 things about the strategic side of what they should be looking at.
The first thing is I try and keep things really simple, because you can quite quickly overcomplicate, and this is not just through jargon, for instance. So ask them where their biggest pain points are, because at the end of the day, and when I say their pain points, HR is part of the thing called a business, the organization, and therefore HR's problems should also be the business's problems. And if the business is, for instance, flying by the seat of their pants and not being able to make informed decisions that are data-led, all right. So we're hemorrhaging a whole lot of employees. That's just a gut feel. Now you suddenly have a system that's telling you, well, we're hemorrhaging, we've got labor turnover of 40% compared to the market. That's very, very high. And these are the top 3 reasons why people are leaving. Now you've got the information to be able to address that particular problem. So the first thing I would ask them, what are your major pain points? And then when you've got these pain points, who are they shared by? Are the leaders at the top of the table, the ones that hold the purse strings, do they share the pain? And do they then appreciate exactly when you've implemented something like an applicant tracking system, that this is going to address that particular problem and help them run a more effective and efficient business, and therefore they'll have the right people in the right place and retain them and grow them potentially, because that could be the next step to actually grow their bottom line for them.
Fantastic. Listen, there's also a question that always comes up, and I always like to ask this question. And there's organizations that want best in breed. I want the best HR system. I want the best performance management system. I want the best learning management system or recruitment system. They're all different systems, and that brings different challenges, right? And then there are organizations that say, I just want one system that can do everything, but recognize that actually it doesn't do everything at the best way. What's your thoughts, and what are the decision-making points around, I go with one system for everything, or I go with, disparate systems or separate systems for best in breed? What are your thoughts and advice on that?
Oh, $1 million question. You do ask them. ironically, we're going through a selection process for the client at the moment, and what we put forward is sort of best in breed solution, an HR system that takes care of your multinational requirements. That's sort of best in breed when it comes to HR. But then we bolt on a learning management system that is best in breed, time and attendance, expenses, that's best in breed. I think it's really down to the word that you use, the risk appetite for that company. And also, you know, if you're going with best in breed, you're going to be managing multiple vendors. So it's not as straightforward as, well, I've just got to take those systems, make sure that they're integrated, which most systems can do quite well nowadays. And I think that was, you know, legacy systems struggled with that. But now you can forego that whole siloed effect and make sure that the systems start talking to each other. And as long as that's the case, then the complexity is taken away and you've got the right data in the right place. And the user's experience is great at the end of the day with your best in breed systems. But the flip side, if the business is looking for simplicity potentially and one vendor, one system, one branding, you know, then that potentially is the way that they should go. And I think that's, you know, dependent on their own personal appetite for risk.
It is an interesting question, and I always come across the same sort of question. And you know, we're all used to, in our consumer life, our personal life, using different apps on our phone, right, for different purposes, right? Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they're all different apps, but they all serve a different purpose. But we're all used to using multiple systems. So actually, in the workplace, it doesn't really matter to the new workforce. But actually, as you say, that could bring complications such as complex integrations, you know, the management of that, ensuring that the infrastructure all works well, connects well. There's probably more failure points potentially, but as you say, it's a risk appetite versus the service and the employee experience that you're giving as well, versus getting one system which probably works end to end and doesn't have the integration breakpoints, but actually doesn't give the best experience. So it's an interesting, I hear your view. There's, you know, I'm in that stance with there is no right or wrong answer.
Exactly.
It is all down to the organization's aspiration and their ability to manage that network. So what else is, you know, another couple of minutes to go, Thomas, just to have a quick chat. So, you know, your 2-3 words of advice to organizations that are coming out of the pandemic. You know, we don't know what's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months. We may get into further lockdown. I'm hoping we don't, but, you know, who knows what happens with the winter coming in. But we will have an opportunity to start thinking about digitalization or digital transformation, etc. So, I mean, are you telling your customers, let's get on with this? You know, what's your word of advice to any organization that's sitting there thinking, should I not?
I'm not saying necessarily get on with it. The only thing in terms of getting on with it that I'm suggesting is have conversations. If you know your organization, you know the pain points that you got. You probably, as an HRD, are stretched in terms of resources, priorities, things like that. Speak to consultancies like ourselves. Tell us about your pain points. Let us come back to you with some suggestions. You know, I'm looking at some stats here, Bob, from the Hackett Group, for instance. Some of HR's biggest priorities for this coming year is the likes of digital transformation. 52% of those surveyed said that that's their primary focus from an HR perspective. Cost reduction was second at 48%. Trying to think, data visualization, 48%, and then the whole thing around data analytics and data management, 46%. And I think in terms of digitalization, if HR can be the driving force for the whole company's digital transformation, employees, you've already mentioned, you know, we're all using apps nowadays, you know, and I'm not going to guess your age, but I know I'm over 50, and we're all using apps, you know, to our heart's content. And that's the way I think businesses are going to move forward and improve their efficiencies and effectiveness if they're doing the same. And if HR can take a lead on the digital transformation, then that's only going to be good, because it touches every employee, you know, whether you're in manufacturing or you know, high-end pharmaceuticals. Then everybody's going to want that appetite and be familiar with the fact that this is the standard we've set. So we want that in all the other functions, marketing, you know, procurement, finance. We want to be fully digitalized, because I'm just trying to think. Unipath found that, you know, you can save up to 5 hours a week by digitalizing processes.
Wow. and it's really interesting. I think those stats are really useful. Thanks for sharing those from the Hackett group, and you know, we'll try and see whether we can get some of those and put it onto the HR Tech platform. But you know, coming to the end, and secondly, you know, so I recommend to anyone that's looking or listening into this, that's thinking about what to do, reach out to Thomas and the team at Tugela People. Great organization to just even have a conversation. That doesn't cost anything, right? Exactly. Bounce some ideas off and just see what the art of the possible is. But also a big thank you to you, because you're big supporters of what we're doing on HRTech247. You've got a stand, you've got some information, and you know, really look forward to carrying on that relationship with you as well, Thomas. So, but coming to an end here, really want to thank you for your time. I could speak about HR transformation with you all day long, Thomas, and I'm sure people will probably get bored of that at some point. But you know, we're all in the same space. There is an opportunity now, as you say, to really, you know, grab the opportunity and leverage what you have, and look at the stats there. People do want to do it. So, but again, thank you for your time. Wish you all the best, and we'll look forward to a beer one day. Actually, now that we can get back out a bit, Thomas, we'll grab a beer sometime. But thanks again for your time. Take care.
I'll take you up on that. Take care.
Bye now. Bye.